side, we're making chicken flavored pilaf. Okay. Then we have our rice. This is 1.5 cups of rice.
Yes.
Okay, 1.5 cups of rice. And then we have a little bit of a bay leaf.
Rice
Salt and pepper.
pilaf.
Salt and pepper comes in at the end. Okay.
Always use onions.
Always for the rice, for classic rice pilaf, always onions. Okay, there's a couple of different types of pilaf, right? There's the rice pilaf where we're talking about a technique, and we're making a rice pilaf, always has onions in it, always has bay leaf in it, French. There's also a Middle Eastern style one that has, that you guys are probably familiar with, where it has a bunch of stuff in it. Right? That's different. That's a different kind of. Is that right?
The recipe calls for clarified butter. The fat was actually for the polenta, but we can still use chicken fat for the pilaf.
Fat's fat, man.
Yeah. But it has to be clarified?
Butter? Yes, because we're going to use it to toast the grains. We're going to saute with it. And we know that high heat doesn't do real well with the whole butter because it burns the solid. Okay?
400.
Turn that on for a second.
So this is a little off, but if I was going to make a risotto, I would need to use clarified butter as well.
Because we're going to toast, again, we're going to toast the grains. Notice that they haven't measured out the stock and put it in front of me. It's not cold. It's in a big giant pot. There's a whole bunch of stock. And then this is my measuring cup. Okay? So I got 4-ounce ladle right now, maybe a 6-ounce ladle, 8-ounce ladle. Depends on how much you need. Since I have 1.5 cups of rice, how much stock do I need?
Thanks.
3 cups. This is a 4-ounce ladle. How many ladles do I need? 6 ladles. This is half a cup, right? So we're always going to measure stuff, right? Whether we look at it to measure it, or we pick it up and hold it to measure it. You know, obviously at first we'd like you guys to use measuring cups and scales and all these things. But as you get more, to the point where you're more experienced with seeing, hey, this looks like 2 cups. Hey, this looks like 2 cups. You know, you can use your eyeball a little bit. The only thing that you can't use your eyeball for are certain things. The ratio of water to rice being one of them. Okay. You know, sometimes for baking, right? But generally in cooking, like when your recipe says 2 ounces of onions, you can look at it and say, okay, this is 2 ounces of onions. You don't have to go out a scale every time saying 2 ounces of onions, 4 ounces. Don't have enough. Hands a little hot. It's hot. So we have our fat, right? And I'm going to go ahead and start off. We'll start off with the onions. You smell that chicken already. Smell that? That's why we use chicken fat, duck fat. Okay? That's all the onions are getting. Okay? So we start with sauteing the onion. You got it all right? It's going to fly. So I'm not making them stoked up. I'm trying to do it so you guys can see it. Are those coming out of the pan?
Yeah.
All right. Okay? Normally you're standing here over the top of it watching it, right? I'm trying to tilt it toward you so you can see it. Once we start to get a little bit on those, we'll start to toast the grains of rice. Okay? So the onion is for flavor.
They don't have to be clear.
This is also how you start off with the Spanish rice. However, okay, look, if you cook these onions until they're clear, you just mentioned that, right? We're sweating onions, cook them until they're clear. Okay. If you cook them until they're clear, then you add the rice, then you toast the rice. By the time you're done with that, you went too far back. Okay. So we went about halfway. We're going to cook it the rest of the way here. It might need a little tiny bit more fat. Every granule should be coated with fat. Okay. And we're going to let it toast. Okay, now what we're looking for is we're not looking to turn the rice brown. Okay? We want to cook it until we start to smell like a nutty kind of aroma. All those little rice granules, they're going to start to turn a bit white and opaque. Okay? And we want to cook out all that. We want to toast it on the outside. This step is going to ensure that our rice doesn't stick and clump together. When it's done, it should be light, fluffy. Every single grain should be separate from one another. Okay? So we let it fry, and we should hear it. And eventually, you're going to hear them start popping. They're going to pop. You hear that crackle, right? Use all 5 senses when we cook. So a long way on that. Starting that. Start off with risotto. And we're going to do the same basic technique. We start off with fat. The risotto technique. What do you guys want in your risotto? You want onions in there?
Yes.
Okay. The nice thing about knowing the method is that you can put whatever you like in later on. You know, you want to do some mushrooms, you want to do some asparagus, you want to make some. I had some saffron somewhere around here. Yes. So normally with saffron, we'll start it off in a little bit of stock. So you guys know about saffron, right? Most expensive spice in the world, right? It looks a little bit red, makes everything yellow. Okay? It's got a very pungent aroma if we use too much. A little goes a long way. I'm going to take this chicken stock and I'm going to let that kind of sit for a little bit before we put it in there. So that way we get the most out of it. Okay, we put our risotto rice. What's the difference between the risotto rice and the pilaf rice?
Risotto rice, you have to constantly stir it. Watch it.
Short grain. This is a short grain rice. Well, it's more of a medium grain rice, but we call it short grain rice.
Is it just short grain rice? Not water?
Yeah, this is our Oreo rice. Okay.
Which is a little bit more expensive.
Depends on where you buy it and where you live and all that other kind of stuff. All that other jazz.
You know where this is good price in your town?
Smart and Final. Smart and Final.
The sunflower the same as the sunflower. Is the sunflower the same as sunflower? This is in the water.
Saffron comes from crocus flower. Okay. So you see this, it's just started to turn brown around the edges. That's okay. A little tiny bit of brown. When we make Mexican or Spanish rice, when we toast these, we're going to toast them until everything's really nice and dark. Okay. But for French rice pilaf, just a little bit of browning around the edge is okay. You know, it's all nice and cooked. And I don't know if you smell that, right? But it kind of smells a little bit like popcorn, right? That's the aroma. Now we got our stock. How many ladles? 6.
All at once.
And this is hot, because we want it to come back up to a simmer as soon as possible. And you can see, if we use hot stock, that was 4, right? 5, 6, 4. All right, and then we're not going to stir it. I'm just going to get this around the edge off. Right?
Why don't you stir it?
Huh?
Why don't you stir it?
Because it'll start to rub the starch off the outside and it'll get really sticky. Okay, so we're never again at this point are we going to touch it again until it comes out. Where's my lid?
Does it go for mostly all rice when you're doing it?
What time is it?
9:20.
20 minutes from now. Check it out. You gotta know exactly what time it is. You got all your phones out and everything.
No, we can my phone's on.
45. 9:45.
What's
9:45.
what temperature on
Does
the
it go around for all rices? Most rices, you shouldn't stir when you're cooking them.
Right. So if we're gonna do the simmering method for the rice, no, we don't want to stir it. The only one we want to stir is our risotto. Okay, and this is done toasting. Same kind of idea. I'm going to add a third of it. How much is a third of 6 ladles?
2.
2 ladles. So yeah, we got to do math. It's not that tough, right?
What temperature is the oven?
400.
350. 350 is what it should be. I think this oven runs a little bit. I turned it up to 400 because the last time I put it on 350, it wasn't 350. We got to figure it out. Okay, and we're going to constantly stir this one. So that's the difference between the pilaf and the risotto method. Other than we use a different style of rice and all that other stuff, right?
Risotto.
Now, let's talk about the simmering method. We're going to use the simmering method for our polenta, right? So you measured out that water, right? Did you measure out, where'd Aaron go?
Yes, the water is.
That's the amount of water that you measured out for this amount of polenta?
Yes, it was 3 cups, a cup of water. Where's it
Okay,
at?
so there's 2 different ways that you can make your polenta. You can make the nice stiff kind that we're gonna chill and cut out and fry later. Is that what you guys are gonna do for your recipe?
Yes.
Okay. Or you can make the nice creamy kind that you're gonna serve as by itself. Okay.
Advantage of this feast to do a lot of research about rice, because once you get to Asian cuisine, it's all about rice. And there's a twist and test and find all of it. So really look into the rice grains as it wants. Pretty much going to be at every single restaurant, no matter what cuisine it is, you go on to make rice.
Yeah, that's not.
I know, it.
Give you a hard time, huh? So
Give you something to talk about.
here's our simmering water. I know for a fact that that is not even nearly enough water for this polenta. So
You're just gonna cut it down.
just gonna cut it down a little bit, right? We just always got to use our brains when we're cooking, and we look at it and we say, oh man, well that's not enough water. Don't dump all the polenta in there and say, oh, I knew it wasn't enough water. I just put it in there. Right, that's what the recipe said. No,
It calls for some chicken stock as well, so.
does it?
Yeah.
It's okay. We use water for now. Use the chicken stock in the recipe. So we're gonna simmer it. For this particular item, we're gonna stir it while it's going on. We just definitely have to stir the bottom, otherwise it cooks. If we're doing the simmering method with rice, we're not stirring, right? Put it all in the pot, in the simmering water, put it all in, put a lid on it, turn it down low, or put it in the oven, and just let it finish, okay? Okay, so you guys can see this now, right? It's starting to puff up a little bit. It's starting to smell pretty good, right? So if we got vegetables to put in here, we've already put in 2/3, right? I put another 2/3.
You did 2/3.
Well, I was talking. So I've already put in 2/3. Now would be a good time if we have raw vegetables that are cut really small to go ahead and put in there and let it finish cooking. Okay? Or some kind of garnish that needs extra cooking, because at this point it's almost finished. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're not full rolling boil on this, right? It should be a simmer. If we're boiling it, we're just reducing the amount of water. We're not giving it time to soak in. So we're just going to cook it at a simmer. And then at this point, you're going to want to taste it.
You guys should have tasted.
It's coming.
You're going to want to taste it and check and see how it's going, because the only way that you're going to be able to tell the risotto is done is by tasting. Okay?
Extra.
There's no, oh, I thought it looked done. You got to taste it.
Question. If you were to, do they ever serve that with meat or anything or protein? Or is it only
What,
veggies?
risotto?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course,
So-
especially seafood.
So
What would you eat at protein?
yeah, you would add the protein at the 2/3
It
mark?
depends on if it's cooked or if it's uncooked,
Uncooked.
right? So perhaps if we're, like, let's say we're going to make lobster meat that's already cooked, it's already been blanched and we're using a lobster stock, we're going to add that lobster meat in at the very end because we don't want to overcook. It just depends on what it is, okay? But if we're going to use a vegetable one, like we're going to put mushrooms in there and, put them straight in there, yeah, straight in.
Make sure the tasting spoon.
This one's probably going to need a couple more layers. Yes.
I noticed that some of the recipes call for like wine.
Uh-huh.
Is that just, you just got it in there? Or?
No, that's totally cool. Yeah, I would start off, I would actually start that off in the beginning and let it reduce out a little bit, let some of the alcohol burn off.
Okay.
Because otherwise it just tastes like, it tastes like you're drinking wine. You don't want to taste like you're drinking wine. You just want the essence of the flavor.
Would you do that right after you're done with roasting it, the rice or whatnot? Or would you?
Yeah. After you're done toasting it, deglaze with a little wine. Obviously not deglazing it because
Right.
the ideas there. Okay. So for polenta, we're gonna let this cook just a little bit more. Okay, it needs to cook longer. But you saw how little polenta I put in that
Yes.
pot of water. See how much we have here? It's not completely cooked yet. We've got to cook it at a really low temperature for a little while, and we got to taste it. I haven't seasoned it yet.
This is 30 minutes. Is that about right?
20, 30 minutes. Okay? And we're going to continue to cook it. Now, the consistency that we want is a little bit thicker than this for polenta. But I wanted to show you now how fast that thickens up. So if you add too much polenta into your water, you don't want to put it in there and eyeball and say, oh, okay, it looks like this at the beginning, should be fine, because it won't come out right.
So if you notice that you didn't add enough, could you go ahead and add maybe a little bit more?
You can always add more water.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you try to add polenta in, if you had,
Sorry.
it won't work that well because you'll have some that's overdone, some that's underdone. But you can always also turn the heat up a little bit. Let that, if you put in too much water and not enough polenta, let it reduce a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. You gotta be careful with this.
What kind of consistency am I looking for in risotto?
Risotto should be nice and creamy. That rice should be fully cooked. And it should have a nice loose consistency. Remember I told you guys it should never stand up by itself on a plate. It just should. Let's get rid of some of these things.